everyone. This is Mrs. J, and I'm doing a read aloud of Blood on the River, Jamestown, 1607, by Elisa Carbone. And we're on chapter 22, page 173. Captain Smith, you shall find Powhatan to use you kindly, but trust him not, for he hath sent you only to cut your throats. Chief of the Weersekoyaks quoted in William Simmons, E.D., the proceedings. Our trouble starts when winter sets in. If we had more skilled farmers and hunters, and if we all worked at farming and hunting, we might be able to produce enough food to get us through the winter. But as it is, our men are kept busy searching for gold, digging sassafras, and making clapboard, glass, pitch, tar, and soap ashes to send back to England, in hopes that in the lot we will make a profit for the Virginia Company. And to make things worse, when Captain Newport leaves in December, he takes a lot of our food stores with him, saying he and his sailors will need them for their long voyage home. At least he takes Captain Radcliffe as well, and rids us of him. When our barrels are close to empty, Captain Smith goes to trade with the natives for grain, but he comes back empty-handed. Chief Powhatan has commanded all of his tribes not to trade with us. He is wielding his power, Captain Smith says. He is showing us that the crowning ceremony angered him, and that his power is not diminished by it. We will see what else he plans to do. We are allowed 1 cup of grain each day per person. I'm always hungry. I often think of the feast at Weerwokomoco and wish I was there again. Richard and I dig up sassafras roots to chew to ease our hunger. Then we talk about food, trying to use our minds to fill our bellies. My mom used to make Yorkshire pudding at Christmas time, I say, with the crust just a little brown and loads of gravy. Richard closes his eyes, imagining. And remember All Saints' Day at the orphanage, he asks, when we had stew with enough meat in it so everyone got some? We talk about the birds and fish we roasted on Nevis. I tell him again about the mounds of peas, squash, and venison at the Weerwokomoco feast. Soon our jaws are tired from chewing on the sassafras roots, and for a time our bellies are fooled into thinking that we have eaten. Then one day we have good news, or what seems like good news. 2 natives arrives to tell us that Chief Powhatan is ready to trade. He will give us food if we bring him what he wants. A grindstone, a rooster, and a hen, copper, beads, 50 swords, several muskets, and workmen to build him an English-style house. He knows we are hungry enough that Captain Smith might as well give him all he wants, including all the weapons. President Smith rubs his forehead and says quietly, "We are desperate for food." To the messengers in Algonquin, he says, "Tell Chief Powhatan we come, give things he wants." But as the messengers walk away, he says in English, "Except the guns and the swords. I will throw in some extra gifts instead." I smile. Watching the battle of wills between Captain Smith and Chief Powhatan is like watching the dance of a sword fight between 2 proud, powerful men. We load up 2 barges in the Discovery for our trip to Weerwokomoco. We hope to bring all of these vessels back laden with food. The first night we stop at the Weersekoyak village and are welcomed as guests. Chief Sesentacum shares his pipe of tobacco with Captain Smith and shares some advice as well. I listen hard to understand the Algonquin words. Chief Powhatan will treat you kindly, but do not trust him, he says. He has sent for you only to slit your throats. Captain Smith does not seem surprised, and I realize that he has already guessed this might be a trap. "We keep guns ready," he says in his choppy Algonquin. Then he looks at me. "I leave boy with you?" he asks Chief Sesentacum. "I send messenger to him. If I dead, boy go to Jamestown, tell others." This chills me to my bones. I want to object, to tell Captain Smith not to go. Why is he willing to walk into a trap? We are surviving on our grain, I want to tell him. Captain Newport will be back soon. Let us all return to Jamestown tomorrow and wait for the supply ship. But I don't say anything. It's not my place. Chief Sesentacum agrees. Captain Smith and the other men will go to Weerwokomoco in the morning. I will stay in the Weersekoyak village and wait. If Captain Smith is killed, I will return to Jamestown to bring the news. The next morning, I watch the Discovery sail away with Captain Smith at her helm. I wonder if it'll be the last time I ever see him. I push down sadness. I've already lost Reverend Hunt. I don't want to lose Captain Smith as well. I tell myself that he is wily and smart and will not easily fall into Chief Powhatan's trap. The Weersekoyak village is a busy place. I want to do my share of the work, but when I try to help 2 girls with their pounding of corn into a meal, Kanta, Chief Sesentacum's son, pulls me away. "That work is for the women to do," he says. "I will show you the men's work." He takes me to the forest. There is a thin layer of snow on the dead leaves, and my feet crunch loudly on them. He stops and looks at me, frowning. You are very loud, he says. He inspects my shoes. My mother will make you moccasins. He looks around, finds a sapling that seems to be just right for what he is searching for, and cuts it down with his hatchet. I will teach you how to make a bow and arrow, he says. Working with wood and stone is a good way to keep my mind off what might be happening to Captain Smith. Kainta teaches me how to peel the bark off the sapling, cut notches in the bowstring, and string it with a strong gut. We make several arrow shafts from straight, thin wood. He shows me how to make an arrowhead, chipping a piece of rock until it is the right shape. It is a slow process, and I ruin several pieces of rock before I get it right, but I'm finally able to make my first arrowhead. Then I tie it to a shaft and balance the shaft with the feather so that it will shoot straight. When we go hungry, we go to the communal cook fire. There we find a large clay pot filled with hominy and venison stew, fish on the grill, and bread baking in the hot ashes on the ground. Eat, says Kanta. He tears off a piece of bread and uses an oyster shell to scoop the stew right out of the pot. I do the same. It is delicious. This is what I have seen people do all day. Just come up to the pot and take what they want to eat. I realize that they have no meal times, no rationing of food, and I think that these Powhatan people must be the wealthiest people on earth. A young woman put on a new loaf of bread in the ashes to stir, and the pot of stew. She wears a kind of apron made of deerskin that hangs down to her knees. Her arms, face, and legs have colorful tattoos of patterns of flowers, fruits, and snakes. Her black hair is plaited into one long braid hanging down onto her hips. She smiles shyly at me. How strange I must look to her in my English clothes. No messenger comes that day or the next. I don't know if this is good news or bad news. I have no choice but to wait. At sunrise, I go with Kainta down to the river where he bathes in the frigid water. I stay shivering on the shore. Kainta sprinkles a bit of tobacco on the river, closes his eyes, and lifts his hands, and I know that he is praying. This is what Namantok did every morning when he lived with us in Jamestown. The days go by, and I learn more about men's work, which is mostly about hunting and fishing. I'm also careful to learn which chores are women's work, so that I will not embarrass myself again by trying to do any of it. Planting, weeding, harvesting, making clay pots, cooking, making clothes, it's all for girls and women to do. Kainta teaches me how to make a knife by chipping a piece of rock until it is sharp, and then trying it with gut onto a short stick. He gives me a buckskin pouch and shows me how to hang it from my waist with a leather strap. My knife fits nicely inside. I continue to make my arrows, chipping the arrowheads and tying the feathers, until I have enough to go hunting. Kainta shows me how to weave a case so that I can carry my arrows on my back. He has me practice with my bow and arrow and a target so I can shoot straight. It snows. Kainta said this will make hunting even easier because we will see the animals' tracks in the snow. I have my new moccasins, and I walk carefully heel to toe the way that he has showed me, trying to be as silent as he is. I am concentrating so hard that at first I do not notice someone else who has been walking quietly in the forest. Then suddenly I look up and see him. Namantok, I cry out. I'm very glad to see him. Then when I realize why he has come, I'm filled with fear. He is the messenger from Werowocomoco. I stand, gripping my bow, waiting for bad news. Namantok smiles. Do not look so worried, Samuel. Your master sends good wishes. I groan with relief. Then I am confused. Why have you come and not Captain Smith? I ask him. He answers me in Algonquin. I am in his world now. Captain Smith says you will stay with the Wersookoyaks through the winter. You will learn more of the language and eat well. Kanta joins us. He and Namantok exchange the greetings of countrymen. With one fist, each taps first his own chest, then forehead, then taps the other boy's chest and forehead. Come, says Kainta. You must be feeling hungry after your journey. We will hunt later. We sit with Namantok at the communal cook fire as he eats. I form my question in Algonquin. Chief Powhatan make trap? I ask him. Now that I have heard the good news, I'm ready to hear the whole story. Yes, Namantok says, but your werowance is quick as a rabbit. The trap did not catch him. He grins. He likes Captain Smith as much as I do. In between mouthfuls, Namantok tells us what happened. Captain Smith and his men arrived in Werowocomoco and were treated kindly. They traded for lots of corn, but by the time their boats were loaded up, the tide was out and the boats couldn't move. They had to spend the night in Werowocomoco, staying in one of the houses. Just after dark, Captain Smith heard a sound at the door. It was Pocahontas. Her eyes were wide with terror. "You must go," she said. "In a little while my father's men will bring you food. As soon as you put down your weapons to begin to eat, they will slit your throats with your own swords, and if they don't succeed, they will be a bigger attack later." She begged them to leave right away. She was crying. She knew that if she was caught warning Captain Smith, her father would have her put to death. She may have been play acting the first time, I think, but this time she really did risk her life to save Captain Smith. The tide was still too low for them to leave. Within an hour, 10 strong warriors came with platters of food, just like Pocahontas had said they would. The warriors said the slow matches on the Englishmen's guns were smoking up the room, making them sick, and they should put them out. But Smith just said, "Oh, we don't mind smoke." And then he made the warriors taste all the food to make sure it wasn't poisoned. Captain Smith and his men ate their supper with their guns smoldering and ready. And later, big attack, I ask? Nematak tells us how the Englishmen kept a guard half the night, standing with their muskets ready. There was never an attack. At midnight, the tide had risen enough to move the boats, and they left. So Captain Smith and his men are safe, and they have taken corn back to Jamestown. "Thank you. Good news," I say to Nematak. It has begun to snow again, and Nematak is invited to stay the night. He sleeps in the family house with Kainta and me. The next day, the three of us go hunting. We walk quietly through the white forest stalking rabbits. We see one. Even I have been quiet enough not to startle it. Kainta and Nematak both look at me. They want me to shoot, to have a chance to make my first kill. Silently, I pull out the arrow and string it on my bow. I make my breath even and slow so that it will not affect my shot. I watch the rabbit as it hops along the undergrowth, looking for food. I pull back on the bowstring and aim. Then I let my arrow fly. There is a whoosh and a thud. The arrow hits its mark. The hare lies still. Blood seeps from where my arrow has entered its side, staining the snow bright red. Kainta claps me on the back. "You have learned well," he says. I'm still amazed at what I have done. "Go, take your prize and give thanks to the god Okius for your meat," says Nematak. I tie the rabbit's hind feet to a piece of gut and hang it around my waist. We hunt some more, and the other two boys also get rabbits. The winter day is short. When the sun sinks down, casting long shadows over the glittering snow, it's time to return to the village. I use my knife to cut open the rabbit's abdomen and clean out its entrails, and peel the rabbit's skin away from the meat. My rabbit, which I have killed myself with a weapon I made myself, becomes part of the communal stew that evening, and it makes me feel proud and strong. Nematak goes home to Weir-Wokomoko, and I stay at the Weir-Sequoiak village, as Captain Smith has prescribed. Kainta and I do more hunting. He shakes his head when he sees me trying to keep my hair, which is getting quite long, out of my way. He asks his mother to cut my hair for me. She takes 2 mussel shells and grates away the hair on the right side of my head down to the scalp. It pinches and pulls, but I keep still. On the left side, she leaves it long, and she cuts a ridge of short hair down the middle of my head so that my hair looks very much like the other boys and men. "There," says Kainta. "Now it will not get caught with your bowstring." When the winds of February blow cold, I wear a mantle of deerskin. During the March thaw, I kill my first wild turkey. Kainta ties 2 of its feathers to the long side of my hair. In late April, when the mosquitoes, flies, and gnats come out, Kainta shows me how a layer of bear grease mixed with the powder of red puccoon root keeps the bugs away. It also makes my skin red. I no longer look very much like an English boy. One day, we boys are playing a game that's very much like English football. We have a goal at each end of the field. We kick a ball made of skins, trying to score by kicking the ball into the other team's goal. I have finally gotten tired of sweating in my slops and long-sleeve shirt during these games, and I have let Kainta's sister make me a buckskin breechcloth to wear. The red puccoon dye protects my back, chest, arms, and legs from insects and the burning of the sun, and my moccasins protect my feet for running. The right side of my hair has now been newly shaved by Kainta's mother, and the left side of my hair is quite long, almost to my shoulder. I added a few shells to the feathers as ornaments. As we play, I hear a call of Wingapo, spoken with an English accent. I stop running. I've almost forgotten what English speech sounds like. What I see takes my breath away. It's Richard, Nathaniel, Henry, Abram, and several others. They look thin and wan. They are walking toward us. Richard calls out, speaking Algonquin, as if he has memorized just what to say. "Captain Smith send, need eat, find English boy Samuel." I sputter. Richard, I call to him, it's me. Richard's eyes go wide and his mouth drops open. By God, he's turned into a savage, Henry says. I ignore Henry and go to greet Richard and the others. The Indian boys gather around us. Are you here to bring me back? I ask, still not understanding why they have come. Richard shakes his head. We are to stay here for a while to eat. Rats got into the grain. There were so many of them, they looked like maggots squirming in barrels. We have almost nothing left. So President Smith has sent us to different places. Some he sent upriver to live on oysters, some he sent down to the river to Point Comfort to live on fish, and some to friendly tribes. We got sent here. We have copper to pay our way. I translate as best as I can for Kainta. He nods and says he will go tell his father that they are here. So, Richard eyes me curiously. Did that stuff get stuck in your hair, or did you put it there on purpose? I sock him playfully in the arm, and we both laugh. I think of how I want to teach him what I have learned: how to make snares to catch beavers, otters, and squirrels, how to build a fire in a canoe at night so the fish will be mesmerized and come so close we can spear them, how to find mushrooms and roots and berries that are good to eat. I know that with all the knowledge I've gained from living with the Weirsecoyoks, we don't ever have to be hungry again.